Recently took a gamble and I ordered this as non-working on eBay, and I managed to get it for £9 including shipping, so not too bad as a little project, I thought. And the reason why I went for this particular model is just to have a backup essentially of a very well-known recorder, a Panasonic DMR-ES10. These are renowned for being able to make video look half decent. And what I mean by that is if you've got any old videotapes, any VHS-C perhaps as well, where you're starting to maybe get a little bit of a flicker, a bit of a kind of a tearing effect, then this works really well as a pass-through recorder to pass the signal through. So you pass it through the front, you take it out the back essentially, and you feed it into another capture device, and you can actually capture some half decent video. And it's quite a reasonable way of doing it as well. So if you haven't got a TBC, a time-based converter, then this is a good way of tidying up your own videos quite cheaply. And at the time, I guess it was mainly used just for recording off analog TV, so it doesn't have a hard disk. So in some ways, it's a limiting factor because you've got less editing facilities on this. But with a hard disk as well, that's when you get into issues with hard disk getting worn out and then you needing to perhaps update firmware and whatnot. And yeah, when you run these machines with the built-in hard disks, they're a little bit harder to maintain, especially the older ones. So purely as a pass-through device, it's pretty good. Back in the day, as a recorder, it did a reasonable job. It can be quite harsh, I guess, in the sort of longer settings. So the settings which basically didn't allow for the same level of detail to be captured as in the highest setting, they would look pretty shabby. So you'd really need to be storing stuff that you were capturing from the TV, probably at a 1 hour type duration at a time, like per disc, and that would have been halfway there to kind of get half decent quality, or good quality I should say. So purely as a exercise, now I did a series of videos some time ago on the same model, and I had no end of issue trying to identify what was wrong, and in the end it ended up not being a problem on the power supply, it ended up being a crack on the main PC board. And that's another warning really, is if you're buying these devices with an intent to have a little muck about with and try to get working, just be warned that when they are packed and they travel through the postal system or the parcel system, they get thrown around all over the show. And what happened with another model like this is it actually cracked the PCB board. So that was a hairline crack, and I didn't really notice it until later on, and it went over quite a few tracks, and at the time my soldering skills went up too much, so you know, I didn't try to rescue it. But anyway, this is a new project, so this is another ES10 machine, and I will be attempting to see if it works. So not being powered on yet, that'll be the first thing, and take it from there. So like I say, great machines still to have to hand for pass-through purposes, less useful for actual recording. So if you get one with a duff drive, it's not going to be the end of the world. It will still run up and allow you to pass a signal through. I guess another thing that this machine was quite useful for at the time was the DVD-RAM disc. Now, DVD-RAM gave you kind of the capabilities of a hard disk, but essentially on a removable disc. And this disc could be a standard kind of DVD-RAM disc, or one inside a cartridge, and it just looks like a big mini disc essentially. So this drive will take care of both types, so it'll load up DVD-RAM fine out of the cartridge, and yeah, that was a really good useful feature to have, because not a lot of these DVD recorders supported DVD-RAM. It was probably more or less a Panasonic kind of thing at the time. And the other thing you notice on the front is it does support the minus and the plus discs as well. So that was essentially another kind of benefit to running these sort of machines at the time. But anyway, they're antiquated. They've got their sort of uses in rare kind of situations, I guess. But as I mentioned, pass-through machine, really useful, and has lots of connectivity on the back. You don't have HDMI, but you do have lots of different things. And also this one as well only had an analog tuner. I think the later models, they brought in the DVB tuner, so they could be maybe still useful to some extent today. But something like this, I guess you could probably still capture maybe stuff from old game consoles. So that might be something worth looking at. So just kind of capturing from there. But this is where we are, and I'm going to attempt to repair it. Today I'm going to be trying to fix what's in this box, and I'm going to be opening it up now just to show you what we have.
We have newspaper.
Let's move this box out of the way. Looks quite well packaged, which is good. There's another Panasonic DVD recorder. This time, this is a ES10, and yep, it is an ES10, and I'm going to attempt to get it to work. Now, these are probably one of the older DVD recorders that is still worth having if you're into capturing VHS and old tapes, maybe Betamax, maybe even Laserdisc. Okay, so it's got a little knock there and a bit of a dent there, but that doesn't matter as long as I can get it to work. Yeah, so as I was saying, and just a handful more actually of the very early Panasonics were worth having, and they're very good because they're multi-disc compatible. There's some really good options here for recording. You've got DVD RAM, DVD minus, DVD plus recording, so that kind of suits most of your discs that you might have. The other thing as well is it's very good at basically getting rid of kind of tearing effect in video, so you can use it as a pass-through, and equally as long as you stick to the highest setting, so that would be the 1 hour recording setting on a DVD, then you do get a reasonable capture. So it makes it quite good for capturing some really old videotapes, like camcorder tapes, like VHS-C for instance. So let's put some power to this and see if we get any life out of it at all, I think. This is the back of the machine, and one of the first things I kind of check when something's arrived in the post is if anything here is sort of bent, because all this obviously attaches internally to the PCB boards, and you may end up with a fracture crack along those boards, but as you can see, they look reasonably straight. There's no HDMI out on these, so it's old school composite outputs, so it's got SCART. It can carry this video and just standard video, so that's okay. So it's got a requirement for this figure of 8 mains lead, and this is obviously a European model because we're dealing with high voltages here. So let's just get some power into this and see if it actually does anything at all. So I've turned this on at the wall and I've just pressed the button. Seems like it's dead. So at the moment it's looking like a dead unit. Now the fault here is most likely the power supply board, so we need to check that and have an idea that it will be a few capacitors will need changing. There may be another component that might need to be looked at. I couldn't remember what it said in the listing, but it actually backs up on here. It says it's faulty, it doesn't power on, no remote, no cable. Now they've stuck a sticker on here. You will have to obviously take it apart to get any use out of it, or at least attempt to fix it. So that's what I intend to do. So just 5 screws to take the lid off. Okay, so you can see the lid's bent there, but that can be bent back. That's not a problem. This is the board, and it might be a fairly early one actually. I can't remember if it's previously had this riser board here, but I guess they must have. So what's nice is it's obviously got a separate power board here, and we'll need to discharge the capacitors. But that's my first look, is at the capacitors. Now there's more than I would expect actually that have popped. We're looking like there's 2 over here and there's 3 more here, so at least 5 have popped. And on the other side, so this is the high voltage end. This side, can't really see, there's 1 capacitor there. Now, they're quite basic power supplies, so I would expect capacitors more than likely the issue, but it may not be. I might end up changing the capacitors, it might still not work. And in that case, we're probably looking at this one and this one, possibly. So you can see these little heat sinks here. So there's no fan on these. If there was a fan installed, it would have gone here, wouldn't it? So that might be a pointer. It might have got quite hot at some stage. So yeah, I need to identify these capacitors first, which I'll do, and try swapping those out and see where we go from there. Now if these capacitors hadn't popped, then I may have been tempted to have used a hairdryer trick to see if I could have got the machine to start up. That would have meant just applying a little bit of heat on this side of the board. Looking at it, it really isn't worth me doing that. So I just need to make a note and make a note of these capacitors. So we've got a 6.3 volt, 680 microfarads, and then we have a 10 volt, 680 microfarads, so those two similar. We've got a 680, 6.3 here, so as long as I've got some 680s, should be okay. Now these bigger ones, these two are 16 volt, 1500 microfarads each. So just from visual inspection, I'm going to be replacing 5. So 3 680s and anything 16 volts and above for those 1500 there. But looking at the back, so the business end, it does look like it's got quite hot, as you can see, especially around here. These tend to fail, they are known to fail. So I won't know until I replace the capacitors if that's my next step. So it probably is changing this one, which I might have to source. And once I've got these removed, I can see what this one is, if it's the same. The IC is it's an DMR-ES10. These are sourceable. I've seen them for sale on eBay. They're around £6 each for these. So that might be my next step after replacing the capacitors. So I've got a 680 microfarad 16 volt replacement for all those 680s. So it is a higher voltage, but that's probably not a bad thing in terms of this power supply. Now, I have found 2 capacitors that I've obviously pulled from different boards in the past that don't look pop, but I've got no idea how they read, what their rating is. So I will endeavour to find out before I put these in to replace the 2 pop ones. So I've got this little tester, and I think I got this from Amazon. It was a very early Christmas present, bought a few months back, but let's see if it works. So let's start. It says that this capacitor is 0.3, so I think that's okay to use. It'd be interesting to put the ones that are blown in and see what they read. Let's start again. That's the same, 0.3. Okay. Thought I'll put a new one in. This is the 680. And that reads 0.45. So all looking good. You notice it gives us the ESR, but also the microfarads approximations. So this one's 1328, so this is a 1500 marked microfarad capacitor. And remember, this one's a 680 and it's showing 609 microfarads, so that's all within tolerances. I've had to revert to the old-fashioned method in this solder wick and a hotter iron just to map this, because it does seem to need a bit of heat. I've decided to go down the route of just twiddling these from the back, so you've got to be very careful with the tracks. You don't want to pull those, but just kind of take your time. But I've got quite a bit of room behind here, so I can get behind and start to twiddle them. Just the last one for now. You might think I haven't got it set hot enough, but I'm just being extra cautious with having too hot an iron, because that's when you can obviously damage the tracks. Okay, that's come out as well. Okay, let's check the values. Let's turn that off for a minute. Check the values of the ones I've pulled out in the meter. This is a blown one. Well, they're all blown. Not even getting a reading. 26 PF. That doesn't look good, does it? Okay, let's try the other one. Let's put that in. Let's start again. Really struggling to get a reading from this capacitor, isn't it? Well, from both of them. Oh, yep, they're good. So as you can see, they're all bad, aren't they? It's obvious. They're not even, the tester's having trouble testing it. So that's the other IC there. Let's have a look at the number. FCQ10A06, and the board's marked with a negative for the capacitors, so that's fine. The negative end is always the one like that, the line or the other kind of marking that indicates it. Just prepared this board with a little bit of flux. So what I'll do, once I've got these capacitors into place, I'll go round and I'll tidy up underneath. One needs a little bit of a clean up first. These are the 680 microfarads, 16 volts, so we're going to stick these in like so. I'll sort these out. Just get a bit of solder there on left, and then so you need to snip some of these. I just need to quickly go around and touch up on some of the soldering. Just go around and just check. Right, I think everything else is all right. Right, time to snip those legs. Just giving this a little clean up. Won't touch that end. Now just screwing the board back into place. So I'm just putting the final screw in on the back, which holds the figure of 8 mains part, because that potentially can be a bit of a weak spot. A lot of pressure into there. And then I just need to snap that connector back into place. Okay, so I've changed the capacitors and I've plugged it in. So this is the first time I test it. Will it start? Oh, it does, but it's got an incredibly dim display. It says hello. Can you hear that? I wonder if we've got a DVD in here. Sometimes people leave them in, don't they? It's got something in there actually. It's playing it. There you go. A free DVD, Pride and Prejudice. Gosh, that's Jane Austen's 2005. The DVD's marked, but probably not been in there that long, obviously. But that's good. Now the display is not too important, because obviously I can connect it up to a screen, TV or a monitor, and see what it's kind of doing. But what I need to test actually is a remote. So I've got a spare remote. I'm going to test that. It does seem to output correctly. Yep, so I have top menu. Which refers to the DVD, so let's just stop that. Now I will link to another video I did, which is a comparison in capturing video without the use of the ES10 and with the ES10. So that's a useful one to watch to see how good this device is. I want to show you something quite cool, and that's another type of disc that these DVD recorders use. And that's a DVD RAM, so DVD random access memory. So you can treat that really as a computer disc, and it offers excellent features. You can do more editing. So let's try loading that up. What you have to do is you don't put them in like that way. You put them in with this bit in the middle, so it kind of matches the tray. And then if we watch carefully, you can see it slide over to open up the cover, so it can then use it. So I'm just going to press play. See if there's anything in here. The monitor I'm using has got a habit of turning itself off from its inputs. Oh, there we go. Disk is not properly formatted. Format the disk. So I'm just going to say no. And maybe this one is empty. So let's just press the disk is not formatted properly and cannot play, it's saying. So let's put the other disk in. And let's now try to play. That display is so dim. Let's just turn the light off. There you go. Can you see that display? It is saying something, isn't it? It's saying play. The purpose of this video, that's about it really. Saved another one from the dumpster, or the rubbish tip. One for another day. Thank you for watching. And if you like and subscribe, I shall do some more videos in the future. Bye for now.